Who doesn't love a good meme? And in this video, I'm going to show you not just how to format a meme like this, but how to build a meme editor and database. Check this out. See, it really even makes accurate memes. Now let's go and add it to our database. And now anybody can access it. So we're going to use all cutting edge technology for this. We're going to use NextJS 13's app router. We're going to learn how to do HTML formatting, Google fonts, and NextJS mutations. Stick around all the way to the end. You're going to want to see this. Let's get right into it. I'm going to start off with my Tabby terminal. And then I'm going to do an npx create next app. Use the experimental app flag to get the app router directory, and then call the project NJS 13 memes. So we'll say yes to everything here. We want to use TypeScript. We want to use ESLint. We want to use Tailwind. We want to use the source directory, and we want to use the @import alias. All right, let's bring that up in VS Code. And then let's launch that server. And now we've got our standard Next landing page, so let's go and edit that over in source app page.tsx. Now I'm just going to go pare this down to just a starting point for us. So we're going to have a 1200 pixel wide page, and it's going to be centered in the screen using MX Auto. This is all just basic Tailwind stuff. So the first thing we want to do is figure out the HTML for the meme layout. So let's go and bring in some meme images first that we can work with. So I'm going to bring these images into the public directory. It's Disaster Girl, Drake, and the guy looking meme. All of these are in the GitHub project that's associated with this video. There's a link to that in the description right down below. So let's start off with Disaster Girl. She's probably the easiest of all of these. What I figure is we'll just basically put a piece of text at the bottom, and then we can change out that piece of text. So let's lay this out. So I'm going to go into main. So I'm going to start off with a container that is positioned relatively. To do that, we're going to use the relative class, which is a Tailwind class that sets position relative. And the idea of relative is, in this case, is to create an offset point so that any absolutely positioned elements will be relative to that container relative and not to the page itself. So that's how we're going to lay out stuff inside of the image. And this image tag is from next. You give it the source, and then you have to give it a width and a height. So how do we figure that out? Well, if you go over to Disaster Girl again, down in the bottom, you'll see whole image and then 1200 by 900. Those are the dimensions for Disaster Girl. Drake is 1200 by 1200, and guy looking is 1600 by 1066. Just a really nice way to be able to quickly get the dimensions of something. So we put in 1200, 900 for Disaster Girl. And then you have to give it an alt tag as well for accessibility. Let's go see how this looks. All right, a good start. So now we want to write some text on this. So what I like to do when it comes to this sort of thing is start by defining a box. So let's put a box in here. And we'll say that it's an absolutely positioned box, and that its top is down a ways, it's left and it's wide, and it's got a nice height to it. But how do we actually visualize that? Well, an easy way to do that is just to put a border on it. Something you can easily see, like 2 pixels of solid red. And hit save, and let's see. Okay, there we go. So that seems to be around the right position for that box. And you can tweak all these numbers until you get it to the right position. Now let's put some text in there because we want it to actually say something. So we'll say, really, and then we'll make it centered and make it white and make it large, and let's hit save and see how it goes. All right, looking pretty good, but it's not the right font for a meme, right? It doesn't have that chunkiness that we like. So what I did was I Googled around for a Google font that looked like Impact, because Impact has that chunkiness. And what I found was a font called Anton. So let's go and bring in Anton. And the way that we do that is to change this enter to Anton. And then we'll instantiate Anton. We'll call Anton. And for Anton, we actually also have to give it a weight. So we'll give it a weight of 400. And so how do you use this thing? Well, that's actually pretty easy. If you go over here, you can just use Anton class name. And now you've got Anton. And that looks a whole lot more like a meme because it's got that chunkiness to it. Really good. But it's still not quite right, because with memes, you get that text that's got that black border around it. So if it's white text, you get a black border. If it's a black text, you get a white border around it. It makes it really kind of pop. So how do we do that? Well, let's go and add in some CSS that makes use of WebKit text stroke. So we'll go over to our global CSS and we'll bring in two new classes. Text stroke black will give us a text stroke of white because the text is black. Therefore, we want the outline to be white. And the same thing in reverse. White text is bounded in black. That makes it kind of pop out. Okay, so let's use these. So for white text, I'm going to use text stroke white, and that'll give us a black background. Nice. So let's go just take out the right border, and I think we've got a nice starting point there. So what we want to do next is we want to create a lot of these, and we want to create them dynamically. So we're going to make an editor, we're going to make a database. So we need to be able to create a lot of memes, and so that means reusing all of this code here as its own component. And we'll call that meme display. So I'll go and cut out all that div. And we'll create a new meme display component. That just encapsulates that, and we'll use it. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is parameterize it. So what do we need to parameterize? Well, we need to parameterize the background here, and we need to parameterize this text, and we want to have multiple text areas. So let's start with the background here and just add in some properties for the background. All right, so now we have a background property and it's got all the data that we need. So let's go and update the image to just be fed off of that background information. Cool. Now let's go use that by specifying that we have a background with everything we had before. Okay, seems sensible enough. Now let's go and deal with these text areas. So we could call this all kinds of things. We could call this blocks or text blocks, whatever. I'm going to call them text areas, and a text area is going to need to have its location, so top, left, width, and height. It's going to need to have some text. It's going to need to have the color of that text and also the font size. And we're going to need an array of those. So I'm going to call this text areas, and I'll define text areas as an array that has ID in it, because we're going to individually address each one: the top, left, width, height, color, font size, and text. And then I'm going to want to replace all of this section with our parameterized text areas version of that. So we're going to map through text areas. We're going to take that ID that we got. We're still going to say that's absolute. We're going to give it all of the same positioning that we had before. We're going to use Anton like we did before. We're going to have our text and our text stroke. And okay, looks pretty good. So now let's go and fix meme display that's now saying, hey, I don't have those text areas. So we'll go and add a text area where we have an array. We have an ID, the saying that we want. And let's see, so I have all the parameters in there for where we had before. We're going to use white as the color, and let's see what the text looks like. I'm going to be rich. I love it. That looks great. So now, because we're going to have a lot of these, we need to make them flexible so that they can adjust to the size that we give them in a container. So let's experiment first by wrapping this 1200 pixel meme in a 600 pixel container to see how it scales. So let's go back into our code. And I'll wrap meme display in this div that has a width of 600 pixels. And you can see now that the image scales properly, which is great, but the text is still way off there. So what we need to do is figure out how big is our container, and then we're going to scale the text to match the size of the container. Now to do that, all that's going to happen on the client side. So we need to go take our meme display component and turn it into a client component. So let's go do that first. So I'll go up here, I'll grab all of the code. I'll create a new directory under app called components, but I'll put it in parentheses so that the router ignores that directory for routing purposes. And then within that, I'll create a meme display and just paste in our code. And now we can get rid of home because we don't need that. And we will export meme display as our default. And then we'll say that it's going to be a client component by doing use client. And now I've got to go and import that back into page. And just remove the one that was already there. Looks good, but obviously the text needs some work. So let's go back in and go to our meme display. And now we need a hook that's going to be able to tell us the size of an element, in particular, the size of this relative element, because it's the container that holds everything else. So I'm going to bring in a library called useHooksTS that has a bunch of little utility hooks. And one of them in particular is called useElementSize, and that's going to be able to give us the size of that element. So let's go and bring in that library. So I'll do pm add and then usehooks. I'll relaunch the server. And from usehooks, I'm going to bring in useElementSize. And then I'm going to invoke that down here in meme display. And that's going to give us a couple of things in a tuple. It's going to give us the meme ref that we then assign to our div. And it's going to give us the width, which is the width of that element. How cool is that? So what we want to do is get the ratio of the display width to the image width. And then we can use that ratio to multiply out all of the positions and the sizings to right size that text for that. So let's go and calculate that ratio. So we'll just take the display width and divide it by the background width, that's the image width, and that gives us our ratio. So let's go and multiply out all of the text area dimensions by that ratio. Okay, looks good. And let's see. There you go. Nice. And to test this out, let's go and make a change and make it even smaller. We'll make it 300 pixels. And there you go. How cool is that? So now we can go and take a meme and scale it into any position that we want. Okay, that looks really good. And I would say at this point, our meme display is done. The next thing we want to do is start working on the database and the API, because we're going to want to be able to have an API that we can talk to in the editor to be able to post new memes to our meme database. So we need to start by defining our meme templates and then our meme database. So let's go and build our meme templates data structure first. So let's go create another directory under app, and we'll call it data because it's going to have all of our database type stuff. And in there we'll define our types. And then we'll define a type for our meme template. So our meme template is basically exactly what we had before. It's got the background, it's got the text area, and we're going to give it an ID, but the meme template is going to have everything that we need to build out a meme. And then we need a list of all these meme templates that we've got. So it's going to be Disaster Girl, Drake, and Guy Looking, but we'll just start with Disaster Girl. So we'll call that meme templates. And then into there, we'll import the meme template definition, and we'll just create a set of templates. And then we'll have everything that we had before. Disaster Girl, all the width, the height, everything else. So let's go and export that as the default. All right, let me organize this a little bit now. Okay, so I want to drive a lot of this off of APIs. And one of the great things about NextJS 13 is it makes building APIs really easy. So let's make an API that allows us to go and access meme templates. And we already actually have a nice starter API here with hello. So what we can do is just replace that with something that just brings in that meme templates data and then returns a JSON response with the meme templates. And it doesn't make sense for that to be called hello, so let's just change the name on that to meme templates. And now we should be able to go over to our arc and type in API meme templates and get all of that data. So now we can do that from anywhere. We can do that from a client. We can do that from a server. It's really nice. I'm going to copy that and then take it back into our Visual Studio Code and go over into our page.tsx. And now let's go and actually grab that in our home. Now to do that, we're going to use an async component. So we need to change this to be an async function. And then we can go and just fetch that. So now by the time that we get down to this return statement, we'll already have our meme templates, and we can just go and replace all of this with, say, the first meme template. All right, looks good. There we go. And this meme template had something funny in there for the text. So now it's something funny. But let's give it a try with a different meme. Let's go and actually go and build out the meme templates for the other two. So I'll go back over here into our data. And then I'll add on to the end of this array the definitions for Guy Looking and the Drake template. Nice. All right, let's go back over here to our page and let's do number 1 template. All right, looks good. Got Drake, but the text color is white on white. So that's not good. So let's go check the data first to see if it's a data issue. So if I look at Drake, and the color is black, so the text should be black. So what I think is happening here is that we have parameterized in our meme display the text color. And what's happened is that Tailwind has decided that we don't need text black or text white, so it is remove those from the class list. So what we can do is we can put in a safe list and we can tell Tailwind that we should always retain text black and text white. Let's see if that works. Hopefully that works. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, cool. So it had just removed text black and text white because it didn't see that we were using those. Okay, great. Now we have our database of meme templates. What we also need is a database of the actual instantiated memes. So let's go build that. So back over here in types, I'm going to create a new type called meme. And it's going to basically be a reference. So it's going to have an ID for the meme itself, and then it's going to have what template do we use, and then what are the values, the strings that we put in the various positions. So that's going to be our meme database definition. And then I'll create a new file called database.ts. So we'll do an in-memory database for this. So we bring in meme, and then we've got just a flat database that has some initial values in it, say item 1 with guy looking and item 2 with Drake, and then we'll export that. And now we need to go and have another API route that allows us to go get those memes. So let's go and take this route and just create a new one called memes. Also give it a route.ts file. But this time we want memes instead of meme templates. So let's go get that from database. And we'll call this memes. And I think we're probably pretty good. So let's go back over to our page and grab that. So we're going to request that from memes. Awesome. And so now what we want to do is instead of just asking for meme template 1, we want to go and look for whatever the meme template is that is defined by the first item in the template. So in this case, we're looking for guy looking. So we're going to go and look through the meme templates to find the guy looking template. So let's go and replace this meme templates 1 with a find, where we find in the list of templates anything that has the ID that matches the first template. And it looks like it works, so awesome. But it looks like we have some typing issues. So let's go and bring in the types for meme template and meme. And just give these the right typings by using as. Okay, looks good. And now we don't have that red squiggly anymore, so typing seems to be okay. And then one more thing we've got to do is we've got some override text values here. So we don't want new, person, and old. What we really want are we want the values that are coming in from the database. So to do that, we need to allow for override values in the meme display. So let's go over here to meme display. And let's say that we have override values. And that's just going to be a string to string map. So now down in here, we can say if we have a value for that text area ID, then use that. Otherwise, use the original text from that text area. So let's go back over here into our page. And now we don't have values. So let's go and set that and see. Hey, nice, awesome. So now we're displaying our meme database. Let's go and add a little bit of gridding to it just to make it lay out nicely, and then we can move on to the editor. All right, so I replaced our meme display inside of that box with a new section that has a header of memes and then goes through each one of the memes and displays it just like we had before. Let's hit save, take a look. And it looks good. So this is driven right off of the database that's coming back from that API request. So once we make the editor that posts that database, then this should be able to display the new data really quickly using mutations, which is really great. Okay, let's go back into the code. All right, so now we want to go and create a meme editor. It's going to go right above this. So let's go and build out a basic implementation of a meme editor over in the components directory. So our meme editor is going to take a set of templates. So you can choose between the different templates, and it's going to get that from our page. So we need to bring in the type for meme template. This is also going to be a form. So to do this, I'm going to bring in React hook form. It's a very nice form hook that allows us to easily manage all of the data for our form. So I'll bring that in. And again, run the server. And now I can bring in React hook form. Of course, that's a hook, so we need to make sure that this is a client component. And then we can use that hook to define the data. So in this case, we're going to call use form. The data is going to be the template, which is going to be a string. It's going to be the ID of the template, and then all the text values that we want to put into the various spots. And then it's going to give us some handy functions. We're going to go through each of those as we use them. And the first one we're going to use is watch, because we want to watch the value of this template ID. So we'll use watch to grab the template value. That's going to give us template ID. And then we'll get from that the template that we want to display. So then we can use the meme display to display that. So let's go grab meme display. And then inside of a form tag, we will use our meme display on the template that we have selected. So we're going to put that inside of a 2-column grid with a 60/40 layout. Should look nice. Let's give it a try. So we're going to go over to our page.tsx, bring in our meme editor, and then invoke it. But we need to give it the templates. All right, looks pretty good. So now we need a way to be able to select which meme we want, which means that we want a selector. We also want to have some input fields, and we want that all nicely formatted. So for that, I'm going to bring in Daisy UI, which is an extension that's built on top of Tailwind that just gives us some really nice out-of-the-box components. So I'll go back over into VS Code and add our final library. And then I will go into our Tailwind and bring that in by doing require. And that's all I need to do to integrate Daisy UI into our Tailwind configuration. And then I'll bring up the server. And let's clean this up a little bit more again. Getting kind of out of hand. All right, so meme editor, there we go. So we're back where we were. And now we want a selector. So we're going to need to make a div in here that has a selector in it. So we can make a selector. It's going to be bordered. And when we change the selector, we're going to set the value on the template to the new template ID. And otherwise, we're just going to go through and iterate through all the templates and just put in the options for those templates. So let's hit save, see how we do, hit return, hit refresh. Aha, that's looking great. So I can go and change this. So what's actually happening here behind the scenes? So what's actually happening is that when I do on change, I get a new event. That event has the target value in it. That value comes from this value down here, which has the ID. So we're then going to look up by ID in the list of templates, get back the new template, and then we're going to use the set value, which we got off of the use form, to set the value for a given key, in this case template, to the ID that we just got. So that's how we go from clicking on something to selecting it, and then it comes back down here. We get the new template because we're watching it, and then that updates the meme display, and there you go. Awesome. So the next thing to do would be to create the values stuff. So we need to initialize the values here with the text that we got back from the meme. So I'm going to create a handy little helper function here called text values. So this text values function, given a meme template, will give us back an object, and that object will have all of the text values of the default template in it. So for example, in this case, it'll have tagline with the text of something funny. So let's do text values and then just give it our template. Okay, so that's good, but we don't know if it actually works because we're not actually sending the right values to the meme display. So what we need to do is watch values as well, and then send those off to the meme display. And then down here, when we change the template, we also need to change the values to be whatever the values were for that template. So let's go call that function again, text values with that template. So now anytime I select a new meme template, it'll set the values to whatever were in the meme template. All right, so now we want to be able to edit this thing, right? So we need a bunch of text fields that map to the different text areas. So let's go and create a map for that has some inputs for each one. Now we're going to loop through text areas with a map, and we'll go and label each one with its ID. And then we'll use Daisy UI's input and input bordered to give us a nice look to it. And we'll say that we want to use that register function that we got back from useForm right here to connect the input to useForm. And it's automatically going to manage our inputs for us. So let's try this out. Let's hit save. And there we go. So now I can type into here something else. And that's awesome. Now we actually have an editor for this. And we don't have to do any of the data management ourselves. The React Hook form hook is doing all of that data management. That's really clean. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is, once we have all this edited, we need a way to post this to the server. So to do that, let's go back over into our meme routes and add a post function. So before we had just the get method where we could go and get the memes. Now we've got a post where we take a next request. We get the body from that JSON, and then we unshift that into the array of memes and return the new array of memes. So unshift means put it at the front as opposed to putting it at the back like you would with push. Okay, so now we can handle a post. So now we actually have to go do the post. To do that, we'll create a submit button. So right down here after our map, we'll put in a new button. We'll call it Let's Go! And we'll give it a little bit of styling, so button, accent, all that. And it's going to be a submit button because we're in a form, and we want the form to be submitted. So that's going to give us an on submit. And then to handle the submit, we use the React Hook forms handle submit. And we give it a function that it's going to call when we do the submit. We'll call that one on submit. And so for the time being, let's just create a console log on submit. Just going to put out the data, and we'll see what that looks like. So I'm going to hit Let's Go over into our console. You can see we got an object. Excellent. It's got the template. It's got the tagline. It's got everything. That's great. Okay, good. So now, with that, we can go in here and just post to that endpoint that we just created. So instead of this console log, we'll do a post. We'll just go to that API memes, we'll post, we'll give it that body that we just created. And yeah, it doesn't like that because this is an async function, so let's make it an async function. And let's try this out. So I'm gonna do let's go, and then it doesn't do anything. So if I hit refresh, does it do something? No. So I think what's happening is this. So if we go back over to our page.tsx file, these fetches, both meme templates and memes, are aggressively cached, which means once they're actually run, they're never run again. So what we want to do is change the caching on API memes to say we don't ever want to cache that. So let's go and remove the caching on that. Hit save. And then let's try it again. Let's go, refresh, and there we go. Awesome. But of course, we don't want to have to hit refresh. So what we can do instead is use a Next.js 13 mutation. This is really cool. Okay, so let's go back over here into our Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to bring in some new imports into our meme editor. I'm going to bring in useRouter from Next Navigation, not Next Router. Next Navigation is essentially the Next.js 13 version of Next Router. So we bring in useRouter from that. And then we're also going to bring in a transition. And that transition is going to allow us to get some status on how this mutation is working. So let's hit save, and we'll invoke both useRouter and useTransition to get the router and create a transition. We can start the transition by doing start transition. So now what do we do with this? Well, once we have our post, we can start a transition. And then within that transition, we can say router.refresh. And if we want to do something that is pending, for example, we could go and disable the Let's Go button. if we're currently in flight, which means is pending would be true. So let's hit save. Go back over here to Arc. And let's see, go guy looking. Let's just use that. And there you go. And it's seamless. With this mutation that we've done using router refresh, the server has given us back a new VDOM, which we've integrated in on the client. And that gives us just a really clean way of updating the data on our page. And the transition gives us a way to monitor that mutation. So these are really nice new tools built right into Next.js 13 and into React. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed building out this meme generator example with me. Of course, all of the code is available to you on GitHub for free in a link in the description right down below, as always. And if you wouldn't mind, if you like the video, hit that like button. And if you really like the video, hit the subscribe button and click on that bell and you'll be notified the next time a new Blue Collar Coder comes out.